I never saw it coming. Not really. We'd been together for 6 years. Long enough to think we knew everything about each other. Long enough for me to think we were solid. But then Lily sat me down on a Tuesday afternoon, and her words cut through me like a knife. "I need a break," she said. "I need to find myself." My brain short-circuited. "Find yourself." I repeated like that made any damn sense. What does that even mean? She looked at me like I should understand, like I should be supportive. But all I could feel was a deep, cold emptiness. 6 years, and she wanted space to find herself? "I still love you," she added, her voice soft. I don't know who I am anymore." I didn't have the energy to argue. Not then. I just nodded, stupidly, and watched her walk out the door, taking with her whatever little thread of hope I had left. The next few days felt like a fog. I didn't know what to do with myself. Work was a blur, the gym was pointless, and at night, I'd sit in our old apartment, staring at the walls. I was angry, I was confused, and more than anything, I was fucking exhausted. My whole world had been upended, and I couldn't even wrap my head around it. By the second week, I started to get into a rhythm: work, gym, dinner with Mike. Mike didn't ask about Lily, just how I was holding up. It was easier not talking about it. Easier to keep moving, to not think about what had happened. Then, one evening, I was fixing the leaky faucet in the kitchen, the sound of the water dripping louder than the silence between my thoughts, when I heard a knock at the door. I didn't have to guess who it was. Lily stood there, looking disheveled, clutching a bouquet of flowers. The sight of her hit me like a punch to the stomach. "I made a horrible mistake," she said, her voice breaking. "I still love you. Can we talk?" I didn't let her in. I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. "Talk about what?" I just... Please, let me explain." "I know what happened," I said. "You don't need to explain shit. I know about Chris." Her face went pale, and I could see the guilt flicker in her eyes, but she still tried to act like I was the one who was wrong. "Chris? That's not." "Don't lie to me, Lily. I know everything. I know you slept with him." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Finally, she broke, her face crumbling as tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I shook my head, cutting her off. "No, don't. You made a choice. You left. This wasn't a mistake. You knew exactly what you were doing." Her lip trembled as she looked up at me, desperate. "Please, I just need another chance. I need you to understand." I didn't let her finish. "No," I said, calm but firm. "It's too late for that. You're not coming inside." I stepped back and shut the door in her face. She knocked for a few minutes, but I didn't open it. I just stood there, listening to the silence that had returned, heavier than before. I stood there, listening to her knock for a few minutes before it stopped. I didn't open the door, didn't even move. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't sure if it was from anger or something else. Maybe a mix of both. Then I heard her voice. It was soft, almost pleading, but I didn't feel a shred of sympathy. "Please, can we just talk for a second?" she called out. Her words quiet, like she was hoping I'd forget everything and just let her in. I stayed quiet for a moment, letting the weight of the silence hang between us. "You know, I can't let you in," I said finally, my voice steady. "You're not welcome here." There was a pause, and I knew she was fighting the urge to scream. "This isn't fair," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you don't understand." "I understand just fine," I shot back, not caring how cold I sounded. "What I don't understand is why you felt the need to reconnect with Chris." Her breath hitched, and I could feel her hesitation before she spoke. "Chris? That's not." "Don't lie to me, Lily," I interrupted. "You think I didn't notice the late-night texts? The random trips to see him? You didn't even try to hide it." I wasn't looking for anything with him," she said quickly, the words coming out in a rush. I needed someone to talk to." "You don't get it." It was a stupid thing, but it didn't mean anything. We were talking about old times. I stared at the door, wanting to believe that this was just some misunderstanding, that maybe I was wrong, but I wasn't. I knew the truth. I could feel it in my bones. Old times. I scoffed. You didn't just talk to him, Lily. You slept with him. There was a sharp intake of breath from the other side of the door. She didn't answer right away, and in the silence, I could almost hear the cracks forming in her perfect little lie. No, she finally whispered. But even I could hear the hesitation in her voice. It wasn't enough to fool me. No, I didn't. I swear I didn't. I shook my head, not buying it for a second. Don't try to protect yourself now. I know what happened. I know you slept with him. There was another long pause before she spoke again. But this time, her voice wasn't calm. It was cracked, desperate. I did, she admitted, and there was no hiding the defeat in her voice. I slept with him. I thought maybe it was him. Maybe I should have been with him instead of you. The words stung more than I expected. The kind of sting that leaves a mark. But I didn't let it show. I held my ground. Okay, I said, my voice quiet but firm. So you chose him, and now you're here, acting like everything's just supposed to go back to normal. Please, can we just? She cut herself off, probably realizing how desperate she sounded. I made a mistake. I want to fix this. I still love you. You don't get it, Lily? I said, my voice colder now. You didn't make a mistake. This wasn't some accident. You chose this. You chose to leave. You chose to sleep with him. And now you're here asking for a second chance like none of that matters. I'm sorry, she whispered, and I could hear the tears in her voice. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. I need you to understand. No, I cut her off. I don't need to understand anything. You made your choice. And now it's over. She begged, then. Her voice cracked, pleading with me. Please just let me in. I know I messed up. I'll make it right. Just give me a chance. But I was done. I couldn't do this. Not anymore. No, I said, my voice steady, unwavering. I'm not letting you in. You don't get to walk in here like everything's fine after what you did. I love you, she said, her words breaking, but I wasn't swayed. I'm not the one you love, I said, the words coming out sharper than I meant. You loved the idea of me, of us, but not enough to stop yourself from throwing it all away. You walked out that door on your own. This wasn't a mistake. This was your choice. There was nothing more to say. I didn't want to hear her explanations anymore. I didn't want any more empty promises. So, I stepped back from the door, leaving her standing there, broken and desperate. I didn't feel the slightest bit sorry for her. I was past that. I didn't have to wonder long about where to go from there. I didn't want to be alone. Not tonight, not after everything, so I called Mike. He didn't ask me what happened or push me to talk. Mike never did that. He just knew when to be there and when to give me space. I picked him up from the bar, and we drove to his place, his old pickup truck rumbling down the road like it always did. We didn't talk about Lily. Didn't need to. He tossed a bag of chips in front of me when we sat down on the couch, and we cracked open a couple of beers, the sound of the cans popping louder than anything in my head. How's work? Mike asked after a few minutes of silence. Busy, I answered. Same as usual. He nodded, leaning back. Heard about the new project you're working on. You still doing the data stuff? Yeah, but they're switching things up. Making me handle some marketing crap now too, I said, shaking my head. Just a lot more bullshit, you know? He snorted. That's corporate life for you. Never a dull moment. Right? I took a swig of beer, feeling the cold hit my throat. It didn't make the tension in my chest go away, but it helped dull it. The conversation stayed light, a steady flow of small talk about sports and work, just like it always had. But the whole time, my phone buzzed in my pocket, the notifications lighting up the screen. I didn't need to look. I knew it was her. Missed calls, voicemails, probably more apologies and half-hearted pleas. I tried to ignore it, but the buzzing was relentless. The pull to check was almost as strong as the pull to scream. I stayed quiet, though. I wasn't going to listen to her words anymore. Not tonight. Not ever again. I reached into my pocket, pulled the phone out, and saw the dozens of calls from her. The voicemail icon glowed. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just exhaustion. Without thinking, I tapped the screen and swiped each one away, one after the other, deleting them. Mike looked over at me. "You good?" I nodded, feeling lighter with each call I erased. "Yeah," I said. "It's just easier this way." Mike didn't ask me to explain. He never did. Instead, he took another swig of beer, and we kept watching the game on TV. There was something strangely comforting in the noise of it all. Just the two of us sitting there, a world of bullshit outside, but none of it mattered. By the time the game was over, my phone had buzzed again, and I'd blocked her number. I didn't know why it felt like such a relief. Maybe because it was the first real step forward. Maybe because I finally understood that there was nothing left to fix. I had done the work. The us was gone. Mike slapped me on the back, giving me a crooked grin. "Good call, man. You're doing the right thing." I wasn't sure if I believed him, but I said nothing, just lifted my bottle and clinked it against his. The sound of it felt like the closing of a chapter, the finality of it clear in that simple motion. After a few more minutes, Mike stood up and stretched. "I'm heading out. You good to stay here tonight?" "Yeah," I said, watching him pull on his jacket. "I'm good." When he left, I stayed on the couch for a little while longer, staring at the TV. It was funny. I'd been dreading this moment, this new chapter, but now that it was here, it didn't feel as heavy as I thought it would. The quiet was almost nice. I didn't have to worry about checking my phone, about hearing her voice again. There was peace in that. I let it settle over me like a blanket, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I woke up to the sound of a light tapping at the window, followed by the faint scent of coffee drifting through the air. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I rubbed my eyes, blinking the sleep away, but when I looked out, there she was. Lily, sitting on my front porch with a cup of coffee in her hands, staring at the ground like she was waiting for something. Maybe me to come outside, maybe me to forgive her. I stood there for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest, not sure what I was supposed to do. I hadn't seen her since the night I'd slammed the door in her face. That felt like a lifetime ago now. But there she was, looking like she hadn't changed a bit, like she didn't understand the damage she'd done. I didn't move, couldn't. Something in me just froze, and I felt the weight of every decision I'd made up to that point pressing on me. I didn't want to deal with her. Not today. Not ever. But of course, she wasn't going to make it easy. She saw me standing there through the window, and after a few seconds, she stood up, cup still in hand, and slowly made her way toward the door. I could feel the pull of the situation, the temptation to open up, but I held my ground. Couldn't let her back in. Not again. When I opened the door, she looked up at me, her eyes red and tired, like she hadn't slept in days. "I made coffee," she said quietly, holding the cup out to me like I'd forgotten what it tasted like. I didn't take it. "I don't want it, Lily." My voice was steady, but the tightness in my chest was unbearable. She didn't say anything for a moment. She just stood there, the cup between her hands, looking like she wanted to say something more, but couldn't find the words. Finally, she spoke. "I know you're angry, and I don't blame you. I've been an idiot." Her voice broke slightly, but she pushed through. I need you to know how sorry I am." "I already know everything, Lily," I said, the words flat, no emotion in them at all. "There's nothing you can say that's going to change anything." She looked at me like she was trying to read me, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. Her eyes searched mine, her face pleading. "Please, just let me explain." You don't get to explain yourself," I cut in. "You had all the chances in the world to make it right. You didn't. So don't stand here now acting like you're the one who's been wronged." Her jaw clenched, and she looked away, swallowing hard. I could see the struggle inside her. She wasn't done yet, though. She never was. "I wasn't sure, okay?" she said, the words coming out in a rush. I wasn't sure if I married the right person. I didn't know what I wanted. And when I reached out to Chris, it wasn't because I didn't love you. I just needed to know if I was making the right choice, if I was with the person I was supposed to be with. I clenched my fists, feeling my patience wearing thin. You reached out to him months ago, Lily. I know that much. You didn't need to sleep with him to figure that out. She winced, but she didn't deny it. I thought maybe I made a mistake. I thought maybe I was supposed to be with him, that he was the one who understood me. I felt a sharp pang in my chest, but I didn't let it show. And now? Now that you've realized he doesn't love you, I asked, my voice low. Now you want to come back and tell me all this? Like it's gonna fix everything. Her face flushed, and for the first time, I saw the truth in her eyes. She wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was looking for an escape, for some way to make everything right when it had already been broken beyond repair. I was confused, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I just didn't know who I was anymore, and I didn't know who I was supposed to be with. Lily, stop. I couldn't do this anymore. You knew exactly what you were doing. You chose him. You chose to leave me. You chose to cheat. This wasn't a mistake. You don't get to come back now because you're not sure anymore. That's not how this works. She reached out, her hand trembling slightly, but I stepped back, not giving her the chance to touch me. It's too late, I said, my voice harder than I meant it to be. You made your choice. You left. The marriage wasn't a mistake. Your decision was, and you can't take it back. I could see the desperation building in her eyes, but it didn't affect me. Not anymore. Please, she whispered. I love you. I shook my head, my chest tight. No, you don't. Not in the way I need. Not in the way that matters. She opened her mouth, but I didn't wait for her to speak. I turned and walked back inside, the door closing behind me with finality. I didn't look back. The quiet of the house wrapped around me, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like I could finally breathe. The meeting with Jennifer was scheduled for that afternoon. I had called her earlier, but I hadn't expected the weight of the conversation to hit so hard once I was sitting across from her. The sleek, modern office felt cold and sterile, the kind of place where people came to make things official, like endings. Jennifer sat across from me, sorting through a stack of papers with the practiced ease of someone who'd seen this all before. Divorce, separation, heartbreak. She'd been doing this for years, and she could tell from the way I was sitting, tense, hands fidgeting, that this was the hardest part for me. Have you given much thought to how you want to proceed? She asked, her voice calm, professional, but with a touch of sympathy that felt like an invasion. I shrugged, trying to keep it together. I don't know. I guess I thought this would be easier. She smiled a little, but it wasn't a kind smile. It never is. I shifted in my seat. Lily, she's trying to reach me, through friends. She's trying to guilt me into taking her back. But I'm not going to do it. Jennifer leaned back, folding her arms. She'd been expecting that. Good. You shouldn't. She's already proven she can't be trusted. I nodded, but hearing it out loud didn't make it feel less real. The last 2 weeks had gone by in a blur. Every day a new form of rejection, a new form of guilt. But every time Lily came back into the picture, I felt my resolve harden. I think we should file for a separation, Jennifer said, her tone measured. You need to give her a clear boundary, a legal one. That'll make things easier for both of you in the long run. I rubbed the back of my neck, swallowing. Is that the right thing to do? She gave a small nod. It's the only thing to do. You've given her space. She's made her choices. And now it's your turn to take control. I didn't respond right away. Couldn't. I was too busy processing how fast everything had spiraled, how quickly Lily had gone from being my everything to nothing. I'd spent 6 years of my life with her, and now it was all a mess of texts, apologies, and broken promises. But the one thing I knew for sure, I wasn't going back. Not for her. Not for anyone. All right, I said, my voice a little rougher than I wanted it to be. Let's do it. Jennifer started pulling out the paperwork, and I signed each one without really looking at it. It all felt too formal, too final. But it was the right thing to do, the only thing to do. By the time I left the office, the weight had lifted just a little. I still didn't feel good about any of it, but I felt something else. Clarity. Lily was out of my life, and now it was time to make sure she stayed there. When I got home, I saw a few messages from mutual friends popping up on my phone. I didn't even bother reading them. I was tired of hearing her side, tired of hearing how she was sorry and missed me. The worst part was knowing they were still trying to get me to talk to her, to give her a chance, to fix things. It didn't help when my brother called me about dinner plans. I hadn't even told him about Lily yet, but he'd obviously heard the rumors. "Hey man, you coming to dinner tonight?" he asked. "Everyone's asking about you." I hesitated, feeling that familiar weight in my chest. "I don't think so. Not tonight." He sounded confused, but not surprised. "Why not?" "It's complicated, with everything going on." I paused, knowing how it sounded, but not caring. "Lily won't be coming either. Not until, well, things are sorted." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Got it," he said. "All right, we'll save you a spot for the next one." "You good?" "Yeah, I'm good," I said, the words hollow as I hung up the phone. The relief that followed felt like I could finally exhale. There was no more pressure, no more pretending. The family dinners, the smiling faces, the questions. I was done with it all, and that felt damn good. I went back to the living room and sat down. The whole situation felt so far away now, like it belonged to someone else. I had made the decision. It wasn't just about the paperwork anymore. It was about my life. About the life I wanted to build moving forward. I had everything I needed to move on. It happened the next afternoon. I was walking to my car after a long day of meetings, the sun setting behind the office building, when I saw her standing near the entrance to the parking lot. My heart dropped for a second, then kicked into overdrive. Lily. She was leaning against the side of my car, her arms crossed, eyes locked on me as soon as I stepped out of the building. I didn't stop walking, though. I didn't want to, but I couldn't avoid it either. As I got closer, she straightened up and took a step forward. "Please, can we talk?" Her voice was tight, anxious, like she wasn't sure how to say what she needed to, but I knew exactly what she was after. "No," I said, not breaking my stride. "We're done talking." She stepped in front of me, blocking my path, her eyes pleading. "Just one chance. That's all I'm asking for. I've tried to reach you, and you keep shutting me out. Don't you think we owe it to ourselves to at least?" I stopped walking, finally looking at her directly. "You don't get it, do you?" I asked, my voice low, controlled. "We're done. I'm done. No more chances. No more talks. Not unless it's through a lawyer." She recoiled like I'd slapped her. The defensiveness crept into her face, and I could see the frustration bubbling up. "You're just going to ignore everything? Everything we had? After everything I've done to try to fix this?" The words came out in a burst, like she couldn't control them anymore. She took a step closer, her hands outstretched, desperate. But I didn't flinch. I wasn't about to let her in. "Fix it? You can't fix this, Lily," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You broke it. You threw it away." She shook her head, eyes wide with disbelief. "I made a mistake, a big one, but I'm trying to make it right. You can't just act like this didn't matter to you." The tension between us crackled, and I could feel the eyes of my coworkers on us through the office windows. I knew they were watching. This was going to turn into a scene, but I didn't care. I was done hiding. "I'm not acting like it didn't matter," I said. "I'm acting like you don't matter anymore." Her face twisted with a mix of confusion and anger. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means you've had your chances," I said, taking a step back. "You made your choice. You chose him. You chose to lie, to cheat, to walk away from everything we had. You don't get to come back now because it didn't work out the way you planned." Her eyes flashed with something I couldn't read. Hurt, maybe, but more likely the remnants of guilt trying to shift into anger. "You're being cruel," she spat. You're not even giving me a chance to fix this, to explain. I kept my voice steady, but there was no mistaking the steel in it. You don't need to explain anything to me. I'm not interested in your excuses. I'm done trying to fix what you destroyed. Her jaw tightened, and for a moment, I saw something flicker behind her eyes. A realization, maybe, that this was it, that I wasn't going to bend. You're just leaving me here? She asked, her voice shaking now quieter. Yeah, I said, not looking away. I am. I turned to walk away, ignoring the anger that surged in her, the desperation that crept into her voice as she called my name. You can't just do this to me. You don't even care about what we had. I kept walking, my steps steady, each one feeling like a weight lifting off my chest. I didn't look back. Not once. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. When I reached my car, I got in and slammed the door behind me, locking it before I even started the engine. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't from fear. It was from something else, a release maybe, finality. I took a deep breath, looking out the windshield. She was still standing there in the parking lot, her shoulders slumped, arms hanging at her sides. And I didn't feel a thing. Nothing at all. I drove off, and when I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw her standing there, watching me leave. But she wasn't the one I was looking at anymore. I had made my choice, and this was the last time she would have any part of my life. The rest of the afternoon felt like a blur. I tried to focus on my work, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, something I couldn't control. By the time I got home, I couldn't escape the buzz around the confrontation. It had spread fast. My phone kept buzzing with texts and notifications, each one more urgent than the last. Coworkers, acquaintances, even some people I barely knew. The word had gotten out, and it wasn't just the office gossip. The confrontation in the parking lot had become the talk of the building, and, from the looks of things, the talk of the town. I didn't know how it had gotten to this point, but somehow, a video of the argument had surfaced. I wasn't sure if someone had been recording from the windows or if someone in the parking lot had captured it, but it was everywhere. The damn thing had gone viral. When I checked my phone, there were messages from coworkers, all of them congratulating me, praising me for standing my ground. Some of the messages were supportive, others more flippant, like they were just happy to watch the drama unfold. I didn't know how to feel about it. There was a part of me that was relieved, like finally people could see the truth. Finally, they understood what I'd been dealing with. But at the same time, the attention felt wrong. I wasn't some hero. I wasn't looking for praise. I just wanted the damn thing to be over. Mike called later that night, his number popping up on my screen as I scrolled through the barrage of messages. I answered quickly, eager to hear a familiar voice. Hey man, you good? Mike asked right off the bat, his voice calm, the kind of tone that only a close friend would use when they knew you didn't need to talk about it. But they were there anyway. Yeah, I mean, as good as I can be, I said, throwing myself down on the couch, rubbing my temples. Just a lot going on. I saw the video, he said, his voice a little lighter. Damn, dude, you handled that better than I would've. Honestly, I was impressed. I let out a dry laugh. Thanks, I guess. Doesn't feel like much to be impressed by. He paused, then added, Look, man, I'm just saying, most people would have lost it. You kept your cool. People respect that. Yeah, well, it's not like I had much of a choice, I muttered, looking at the phone screen again. The messages from Lily starting to pile up even more. She's still blowing up my phone, Mike. It's relentless. I know, man. I know. But you're doing the right thing, Mike said. You're not the one who messed everything up. She is. I didn't respond right away. There was something in his voice, something that made me realize just how much this whole thing had affected me. I'd been walking around, pretending like I was fine, but the truth was, I felt completely drained. I didn't want to do this anymore. I didn't want the drama. Yeah, I said quietly. I know. It feels like it's never gonna stop. She won't let up. Mike was quiet for a moment, then sighed. I've got your back, man. You just keep doing what you're doing. And if you need to get out of town for a bit, let me know. I'll be fine. I said a little too quickly. Just, thanks, Mike. After the call, I didn't know what to do with myself. I kept scrolling through the notifications, and it became clear that everyone was talking about it. I wasn't sure if I should be embarrassed or relieved that people were finally seeing Lily for what she really was. In some strange way, it felt good to have that kind of validation. But then, the reality of the situation hit me. Lily was still trying to reach me. Her messages were flooding in now, more desperate and emotional than before. The first few were polite, apologetic even, but then they started to take on a different tone. Please just talk to me. I'm sorry. I was confused. I never meant to hurt you. I miss you. I can't do this without you. The last one was what got to me. You're all I have left. Can't let you go. Please, I'm begging you. Each message hit harder than the last. They were manipulative, designed to get a reaction, to make me feel guilty. But I didn't. Not anymore. I sat there for a while, just looking at my phone, feeling like I was in limbo. On one hand, I was done. She didn't deserve another chance. But on the other, the weight of her words, the pleading in them, almost made me second-guess myself. Almost. But I wasn't that person anymore. I was done. I deleted all of her messages without reading the rest, and I blocked her number. Felt like a line in the sand. The final step. And even though I felt a pang of guilt deep down, I knew this was the only way forward. There was no going back. And for the first time in weeks, I finally felt like I could breathe again. A few days later, I found myself sitting across from Jennifer again, this time in her office to discuss the divorce settlement. The air in the room felt heavy, and I could sense the tension in the way Jennifer glanced at me, waiting for me to speak. The paperwork was already in front of us, but there was something almost clinical about the way we were going through it. So, Lily's attorney sent over her proposal, Jennifer said, pushing a manila folder toward me. She's requesting a quick and amicable split. No alimony. No demands for assets. Just, she paused and glanced down at the document. Just the house. Couldn't help it. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. The house, I said, shaking my head. She wants the house? Jennifer raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, feeling a mix of disbelief and something else. Maybe relief. The house was mine before we even got married. She knows that. I'm aware, Jennifer replied, tapping her pen on the desk. But it's on the list. And since it's the only asset that's really in question here, I need to ask, how do you want to handle it? I couldn't stop the chuckle that escaped my lips. Handle it? Simple. I'm keeping it. My tone was firm. I'm not even entertaining the idea that she gets the house. She can ask for the moon next, but she's not getting what's mine. Jennifer didn't push. She just nodded, already knowing where I stood. I'll make sure her lawyer knows your position. But you need to be clear about what you want out of this, what's non-negotiable. I'm done negotiating, I said. The words felt solid, final. She's had enough chances. This isn't about me trying to be fair or giving her anything anymore. This is about ending it clean. No more back and forth. We spent the next few minutes going through the legal details. Assets that didn't matter, debts that weren't worth fighting over, and arrangements for what little we had left to settle. But as Jennifer went over the motions, I felt something strange shift inside me. It wasn't just about the house or the money. I was no longer attached to any of it. Lily had tried to pull me back in with her lies and manipulations. She kept texting, sending more heartfelt apologies, begging for another chance, but I didn't even read them anymore. I didn't need to. What she wanted, what she thought she could keep, didn't matter. Jennifer signed a few things, and I did the same, the last formalities of what I was choosing. The decision was made. There was no lingering sadness, no second thoughts. I left Jennifer's office with the signed papers in hand, and when I stepped out into the street, it was like a weight lifted off me. Something I hadn't realized had been there all along. Walking down the sidewalk, I couldn't help but feel lighter, freer. The air felt different, like everything around me was shifting back into place. I spent the next few days finalizing everything, gathering the last of my things from the shared space, and taking inventory of what I needed to do to move on. It was strange, but I wasn't devastated like I thought I would be. In fact, there was a strange peace in knowing that I was finally making the right choice. It wasn't like I didn't care. I did. I had loved her. I had built my life around her. But the person I had been with her, lost, confused, constantly giving her second chances, wasn't the person I was anymore. The more I let go, the clearer it became. And that feeling, the freedom, it was addictive. By the time the final papers were signed and the last of her things were packed up, I realized just how much I had been holding on to. All those apologies, all those doubts, all those moments where I second-guessed myself. But now I felt done. I was no longer carrying her baggage, her mistakes, her drama. I was walking away clean, and it was exactly what I needed. It was over, for good. And somehow that felt like the biggest relief I'd ever known. The moment the papers were signed, I felt a strange mix of emptiness and relief. Jennifer handed them to me, a quiet acknowledgement of what had just happened. I didn't need to read them again. The decision had been made long ago. I was done. I left her office with the divorce papers in my hand, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was walking around in a fog. The worst part was behind me. I knew that now. There was no turning back, no wondering if I had made the right choice. This was it. Later that evening, I met up with Mike and a couple of other friends at our usual bar. The place smelled like fried food and stale beer, but I didn't care. It was comfortable, familiar. I sank into the booth, grateful for the noise, the chatter, the normalcy. Mike passed me a beer with a grin. "You look different, man." I raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "Lighter," he said, taking a long sip from his own bottle. "You seem like you're finally free." I took the bottle, clinking it against his. "Maybe I am." We didn't talk about Lily. Not once. We didn't need to. The guys were too busy with their own stuff, and I didn't feel the need to dive into all the details. It was over. Talking about it again would only drag it back into my life. The night moved along in a blur of laughter, sports on the TV, and the familiar banter that used to mean everything. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. There was something comforting in that, something that made me realize just how much of my energy had been spent on the wreckage of that relationship. By the time I left, it was late, and the cool night air hit me like a splash of cold water. I didn't go home right away. I walked for a while, the city lights flickering against the pavement, feeling the weight of everything settling in. But this time, it wasn't the weight of my past. It was the weight of a new beginning. I ended up back at my apartment, the same one I'd shared with Lily, but it didn't feel the same anymore. The space was quieter now, emptier in a way that was more peaceful than painful. I tossed my jacket on the couch, kicked off my shoes, and collapsed into the armchair. It was finally over. There were no more calls, no more apologies, no more wondering if I was making the right choice. I could breathe now. The air felt different, lighter. I thought about the future, about what was next. The road ahead didn't feel so daunting anymore. There was space now, space to rebuild, to do what I wanted, to find what made me happy. I shut my eyes, feeling a sense of quiet settle over me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel stuck. I wasn't looking back anymore. I wasn't waiting for her to come back, or for things to go back to how they used to be. I was moving forward, and that felt like the most freeing thing in the world.